paisanos! Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video games. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to talk about today is Super Mario Bros. 2! Okay, I won't do the entire video like Captain Lou Albano. Rest in peace. So, Super Mario Bros. 2. Where to begin? So Super Mario Bros. 2 was probably the second game I got for my NES, no pun intended. So, being the impatient kid that I was, I already grew bored of Mario Bros. A Duck Hunt, so I kind of demanded my parents bring me to Target and buy me another game. And they did. And it was the obvious choice, since I love Super Mario Bros., to get Super Mario Bros. 2. But of course, like 99.9% of kids back in the late 80s and early 90s, I did not know this game's origin in Japan until I discovered the internet. Thank you, internet, for destroying my childhood. And of course, everybody already knows this, that Mario Bros. 2 in America is actually a reskin of the Japanese game Doki Doki Panic. And I actually have finished Doki Doki Panic on an emulator. And in 1992, Japan released this under Super Mario Bros. USA. So yeah, Super Mario Bros. 2. Now, Super Mario Bros. 2 was a huge departure, well, obviously, since it was a completely different game that I didn't know about at the time. It was a very, very huge departure from the original Mario Bros. And I remember when I got the game as a kid, I read the manual, but I didn't really pay attention to the instructions. I just looked at the cool pictures like, hey, there's Mario, there's Luigi, the princess, and Toad. And so I remember trying to hop on a Shy Guy, and I couldn't kill it for some reason. I'm like, what's going on? I don't know what to do. Oh, I'm gonna read the manual. Oh, okay, so I have to lift up the enemies and throw them to kill them. Okay, well, I caught on to that pretty quickly. And like every other kid at the time, I was like, you know, this game doesn't really have a lot of similarities to Super Mario Bros. For some reason. And I remember the first time I played this game, I actually chose the princess, because the princess was someone you rescued in the previous game, which at the time I actually hadn't finished the original Super Mario Bros. Because it was really hard. And so I was like, yay, I get to play as the princess for once, and I don't have to rescue her this time, and I get to play as Toad, and he's not going to tell me my princess is in another castle because she's right here with us. And yeah, surprisingly about this game, I actually barely used Mario and Luigi. I mean, I used Luigi just to get the warps, because there's certain jumps that only he can make. But I actually used Toad and the princess the most, because Toad could lift up stuff really fast and the princess could fly, and that flying ability saved my ass so many times in this game. And I also remember when you get the potion, you throw it down and you go into subspace, where they played the original Super Mario Bros. Theme. I think that's the only thing in this game that bears a resemblance to the original Mario Bros. But the music doesn't play long enough because you're not in subspace long enough. Like, I remember like getting the mushroom and getting the coins, and I'm like, oh man, I hope I can listen to more of the music. I can... Oh, aw. And the thing I really loved about this game, it had a really awesome variety of enemies, more than the original Super Mario Bros., because obviously this was not really a Mario game. Especially the bosses like the Mouser, the Triclide, the Claw Grip, you know, the flaming thing. I'll put the name down here because I forgot. And I also remember the Birdos, who think that they're girls, but you throw eggs at them. And also, I remember one of the craziest things about this game is when you get the keys and then the Phantos chase you. Alright, time to open that safe. Oh shit! I remember being legitimately frightened about the Phantos when I first played this game. I was like, oh my god, they're gonna get me! They're always gonna get me! They're not that hard to avoid, but there's some crazy intensity about running away from those guys while holding a key. Although you can always throw the key and kill enemies and then pick it back up and have the Phantos chase you again. Especially in the second level where you have to grab the key, then go up the sand. It was pretty crazy. I also do remember by the time I got to the second level, I remember I had trouble getting out of the quicksand for some reason. I don't know why as a kid I didn't press the A button fast enough, but I just couldn't get out of it. I was like, no, I can't beat this level, it sucks, it's hard. And I do admit, for the longest time, I actually did not beat this game in order. I kinda did this. I used the warps in level 1 to skip all the way to level 4, which is the ice world. And then I would beat that world, then go to level 5, then use the warp to get to the last level. And it took me a pretty long time, I think a year after I got the game, to actually complete the game from beginning to end. Now, I remember the game being challenging, not as challenging as the original Super Mario Bros. Because, you know, you don't have all those short holes, you don't have the Hammer Brothers, but the level design is pretty intense in this game, and it's a lot more difficult than games I was used to at the time. Oh yeah, I also do remember that you can actually throw the turtle shells down and ride on them, and you're like, surf's up, dude! I also do remember watching the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, seeing the Flurries and the Shy Guys. I was like, hey, I remember those guys from the game! Although I saw the Flurries in Super Mario Bros. Super Show even before I even got to them in the game. And now let's talk about Wart's Castle. Oh boy, now, level 7 was already difficult enough to beat, but getting to Wart's Castle was quite an ordeal, especially having to traverse through those clouds with all the bullets, and then you have to ride that rocket. And Wart's Castle, actually to this day, I have never found the mushrooms in there. I am not joking. I have never found the mushrooms. I would always traverse Wart's Castle with my default 2 bars of energy. It wasn't easy. Like, Wart's Castle was like the Super Mario Bros. Version of the Great Palace. And I also remember when I got to the Albatross Head, hoping that I can get to Wart, and then the fucking thing comes to life. I was like, holy shit. And it killed me, because I only had my 2 default life meters, but then I was able to beat it. Now, Wart actually was pretty hard for me at first. Like, I kept trying to throw the vegetables in front of his mouth, but then I started changing up my strategy. I would get the vegetables, go behind him, then throw it in the back. But I eventually got good enough to actually beat him by throwing the vegetables in the front, and then the ending, I remember, like, you know, those guys throw Wart's body out, so was Wart really dead? That's kind of morbid for an NES game. But this whole thing was a dream, so Wart was never really alive, or existed. I would always remember that Toad and the Princess would be my highest contributors at the end. Like, I have beaten the game with Mario and Luigi, but Mario is actually the character I use the least, even though he is the most balanced, and Luigi, while he can jump high, I only really use him for the level 5 warp. And yeah, and I also do remember being really impressed with the graphics at the end when Mario's sleeping. I was like, wow, this almost looks like a cartoon. It looks like the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. Of course, I did play Super Mario Bros. 2, the original Japanese one, as the Lost Levels on Super Mario All-Stars, which I didn't even know it was a separate game, and the original Super Mario Bros. 2. And then playing through it, I was like, you know, I don't really think this game does much more than the original Super Mario Bros. Other than make it super hard. And I always kind of considered, no, not kind of considered, I really consider our Mario Bros. 2, the American one, to be the real sequel to Super Mario Bros. And I know I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for that. I'm sorry. But how did Super Mario Bros. 2 hold up to the original Super Mario Bros.? Well, I beat Super Mario Bros. 2 way before I beat the original Super Mario Bros. And I think while Super Mario Bros. 2 is very challenging, there are a lot of challenging parts in this game. This game is not really a cakewalk. It's actually definitely a lot more forgiving than the original Super Mario Bros. Especially in between stages where you have the coins and you can get extra lives. Like, during certain playthroughs, I would get as much as like 20 extra lives, which made it a lot easier. Although, during repeated playthroughs, I've been able to beat the game without getting a lot extra lives. Yeah, so Super Mario Bros. 2 was redone in Super Mario All-Stars, and it was definitely redone again in Super Mario Bros. Deluxe for the Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy. I definitely recommend picking those up, and you can definitely get it on the Virtual Console. So even though Super Mario Bros. 2 was mostly considered a dream, it definitely carried on the Shy Guys, and I wish it did carry on like the Mousers, the Claw Griffs, and the Tri-Glides, and it would have been great to see Wart appear again in some other game. Like in the Mario Karts. He would have been perfect in Mario Kart. You know, Wart like blowing bubbles at people. So whether or not you consider Super Mario Bros. 2 to be the real Super Mario Bros. Sequel, definitely give it a try, because it's a very solid game which still holds up to this day. So that wraps up this episode of awesome video game memories about Super Mario Bros. 2, or Super Mario Bros. USA in Japan. And if you have any memories about this game, make sure to leave those in the comments below. Take care.
Hey, you guys having fun here? Well, check us out on twitch.tv/BattleGeekPlus.
Hey guys, want to support us? You can support us at patreon.com/BattleGeekPlus, because every dollar helps us bring you a better show.